Governor Greg Abbott, who initially praised law enforcement for rushing toward the gunfire, now says he is livid because he was misled about how police actually responded to the shooting. Matt Doherty shows us what the governor said then and what he is saying now. Matt?
Yeah, the quick change in sentiment has a lot of people wondering about the first responders tonight. Were they heroes or were they cowards?
Hello, and welcome to Criminality. Today, we will be talking about the school shooting that happened in Uvalde, Texas. Uvalde is a small city about an hour and a half west of San Antonio with a population of 15,217. On the morning of May 24th, 2022, one of its residents, Salvador Ramos, was chatting with a German girl he had met online, complaining about his grandma. A few minutes later, he wrote to her, "I just shot my grandma in her head." Then, at 11:21 a.m., he wrote to her, "I'ma go shoot up an elementary school RN," which means right now. In the aftermath, we would learn that this was not a random occurrence, that even though the evidence was scarce, it was there, and it was brewing. The German girl spoke of text messages that would alarm her, such as the one he sent her where he told her that he threw dead cats at people's houses. On March 14, 2022, he made a post on Instagram with the caption, 10 more days, to which someone commented, "Are you going to shoot up the school or something?" And he replied, "No, and stop asking dumb questions. You'll see." In live streams on the social media app Uvalde, he would threaten to shoot up schools, among other things. The few people who watched him make these threats online thought he was joking, so they paid it no mind, but his German friend said, "I added everything up and it made sense now. I was just too dumb to notice all the signals he was giving." Going back to the morning of the event, a neighbor of the gunman said that they heard a shot and saw the gunman run out the front door of his house to what turned out to be his grandma's pickup truck and drove off in a hurry. He had shot his grandma in the face, but thankfully she was hospitalized and she has survived. The gunman drove about 2 miles to Robb Elementary and crashed in a nearby ditch. 2 male witnesses began approaching the truck, having seen it crash from a nearby funeral home, but the gunman opened fire on them, so they retreated and called 911. It was 11:28 in the morning. 2 minutes later, a teacher at the elementary school makes a 911 call reporting the crash and seeing the shooter, noting he has a gun. The shooter walks toward the school, climbs the fence into the parking lot, and shoots at the school several times. At 11:31 a.m., the shooter reaches the last row of vehicles in the school parking lot, firing his rifle throughout. Police arrive at the funeral home. A school district police officer speeds in the direction of a person they think is the man with the gun, reported by the teacher, but drives past the gunman and heads to the back of the school, mistaking a teacher for the shooter. At 11:33 a.m., the shooter enters the school through a back door, which a teacher had propped open. He shoots at least 100 rounds into classrooms 111 and 112, which are connected. At 11:35 a.m., 3 Uvalde police officers rush to the same door that the gunman used to enter, which was closed. They enter and receive grazing wounds from the gunman. They retreat. Later, 4 more officers, including a deputy with the Uvalde County Sheriff's Office, enter the school. At 11:43 a.m., Robb Elementary announces on Facebook it is under a lockdown status due to gunshots in the area. The students and staff are safe in the building. The building is secure in a lockdown status, school officials say in the announcement. A minute later, police with the city of Uvalde and the local school district are inside the school. They hear gunfire, are shot at, move back, and get cover. At 12:03 p.m., a student calls 911 from the room the gunman had barricaded himself in while police continue to arrive and parents desperately plead the police to storm the school. 10 minutes later, and the student has called 911 2 more times, and the police still hasn't stormed the school, even though there are now a sizable force both inside and outside the school. At 12:15 p.m., Border Patrol Tactic Unit members carrying shields arrive. At 12:50 p.m., a Border Patrol Tactical Unit officer breaches the door using a janitor's key and kills the gunman after which point the surviving children are moved out of the room. Afterwards, we learned that 19 children and 2 adults had been killed. To add to the tragedy, the spouse of one of the 2 adults who was killed died of a heart attack. As the dust settled, the community began to express their anger at what they saw as a slow police response to the massacre that happened. How, they asked, could it take over an hour to subdue this lone gunman when almost 20 officers stood in the hall outside of the room that the gunman had holed himself up in, with way more outside? Besides the response time, one thing that angers me is the media spin that the authorities seem to have tried to put on the public in terms of their response. At first, authorities reported that law enforcement outside tried to engage and stop the gunman. One Texas public safety spokesperson initially told the Associated Press that the gunman exchanged fire with a school officer and fired on 2 more officers outside, but later said it was unclear whether the officers had fired at the gunman. An official earlier also told the New York Times that there was an exchange of fire. We know now that no such thing happened. In fact, the school district police officer passed up the gunman on his way to confront the wrong guy. Furthermore, Texas Department of Public Safety Director Steve McCraw told press, "I don't want to give you a particular timeline, but the bottom line is that law enforcement was there. They did engage immediately. They did contain him in the classroom. He said the gunman was killed within like 40 minutes, within an hour. But see, that's not exactly true. They did kill the gunman within 40 minutes of the Border Patrol unit arriving, but he had been holed up in that school for about 80 minutes total. Instead of accepting that police could have done a better job, they seem to be more preoccupied with covering up their own asses, which to me spits in the face of this tragedy. To add insult to injury, there are reports of officers in the perimeter forcefully trying to subdue parents outside the school from storming inside, and allegedly some police officers went into the school to get their own kids out. My takeaway is this: these police officers were called to serve and protect, but at this crucial moment, their courage failed them, and now 21 people are dead, and they will have their whole lives to dwell on the price of their inaction.